Hi, I'm Tony Russo from On Deathcare, and this is The Rest, your weekly roundup of news from around the industry. There's plenty of stuff to talk about. I'm going to try to keep it short. I've been away. I took my first vacation in probably a decade, maybe more, and it was really, really nice. I didn't check my email. I didn't write anything that wasn't for my own pleasure. I read lots of books, and now I am ready to hit the ground running. We got a lot of really cool stuff that we're going to be doing over the next couple months. And if you're a subscriber on the email, you'll be up to date on that as it comes along. As a matter of fact, this Sunday coming up, we are going to release the most recent Sunday column to all subscribers. And there's a reason for that I'll go over next week. But this is an opportunity for all subscribers, paid or not paid. If you'd like to become a subscriber, now is the time to do it. You can go to ondeathcare.com and just choose subscribe. You can subscribe at any level from $0 a month to, I don't know, a bunch of dollars a month. They're all important to me. Of course, this show is sponsored by my paid subscribers who give me the courage and the actual cash to be able to do this weird Deathcare news project that I'm doing. So thank you as always to them. And now let's get into it. First up, we have, it's not a funny story, but it's amusing if you have, I guess, the right kind of sense of humor. Franklin L. Haas, 63, of Rochdale, Indiana, was charged with a bunch of crimes. He went on a bender, and he had all sorts of garbage in his blood when he committed crimes that included battery by bodily waste, which I didn't know was a kind of battery you could commit, but I guess once you hear it, it makes perfect sense. Anyway, so he's on this mad vandalism bender all over town, and he ended up desecrating also a grave marker. And this was on June 30th, 2026. There's a law in Indiana called Cemetery Mischief, which is a special law with special charges for people who commit vandalism in graveyards. It was sunset on July 1st, so Franklin will likely be the last person ever in Indiana charged with cemetery mischief. And I guess it's appropriate because he did a lot of it. So anyway, there's a link to the story in the show notes. Of course, it's not hysterical. It's horrible that he has clearly some sort of addiction problem, or at least consumption problem. And of course, you don't like to see anybody batteried by bodily waste. So, you know, it's funny because it didn't happen to me, I guess. Anyway, there's a link to the whole story in the show notes. Service Corporation International was recently removed from the Russell 1000 Dynamic Index, and it was a move that has been attributed to technical rules-based adjustments rather than any financial trouble. But I wanted to point the story out because I like to cover, the consolidators and let you know what's going on with them. But more important, they were kind of bumped by AI and tech companies, and I don't want to be Chicken Little about this, but I think it's time to worry about how much money we're dumping into these companies that are at best worthless. I think the AI investment thing is overblown, and when you see indexes dropping, reliable companies like SCI and picking up, any of the 10,000 idiots who email me every day with their newest AI solution, it's a little nerve-wracking. So, I wanted to say this in case you saw that SCI was delisted from the Russell 1000, that it is not just a minor thing, but it says more about the instability that's been added to the Russell 1000 than anything it says about SCI. So there's a link to the story in the show notes, and in that story there's a link to the story that did the analysis. They were way they were way more excited about, how much money they're going to make this week on AI or whatever. One of the things that I have shared before on social media, and I'll throw a screenshot of it in the show notes today. Any of these, half AI generated financial sites, when you go to them, it says, "Don't like this?" Well, punch in your own story and get your own answers. It's like, well, if you want a reason to invest in something, you can find a reason to invest in it, especially if you're not really that interested in the facts, which is why we've embraced SEI. I think that's why we've embraced AI so significantly, because we never have to hear bad news. AI will always give us the upside, and that's the thing that we're investing in. We're investing, our indexes are investing. Now, indexes are in, like, retirement portfolios, and for them to invest in things that are not scammy, just bubbly. There's no way that this is not a bubbly endeavor. And every time there's another IPO, I plant a new potato garden and wait for the apocalypse. But anyway, there's a link to all of those things in the show notes. Carriage had an interesting week. I published a story on my field notes section about them being rated a buy by a Seeking Alpha analyst, despite the fact that they had already been down 9.5% year to date and missed their Q1 earnings. Since that has come out, Carriage is up 4% and change. And what the analyst says, and he's probably correct, as I said in the last story, Carriage's defensive business model remains insulated from economic downturns and offers significant growth potential through its M&A-driven expansion strategy. I don't know if their M&A-driven expansion strategy is what's helping Carriage. I think what's helping Carriage is their efficiency in their operation and making smart buys when they make buys at all. They're not over leveraged anymore, and they intend to stay that way. And word is getting out that they're serious about continuing their dividend and not getting back to the place where many of the other consolidators are, where they're just buying earnings by, turning over funeral homes as fast as possible. So this analyst and I can agree to disagree on that, but the rest of the details you will find in the show notes. The St. Louis Jewish Burial Foundation this week put out an announcement that they were working harder to address anecdotal reports of rising cremation rates among American Jews. The volunteer organization focuses on educating families about the traditional Jewish burial practices and the importance of end-of-life planning. That is, tell your kids you want to be buried and make sure that they bury you in the Jewish tradition. I think they said 50%. I feel like that number is really, really high. I looked around the internet and it says between 30 and 50% might be the correct number. And what I was hoping was that you guys would give me a hand with this if you have a large Jewish community that you serve, or if you're a member of a large Jewish community. Let me know if 30% sounds right to you, if 50% sounds right to you. With the expansion of green burial, one would expect that it's easier for Jewish people to find the kind of burials that they like. And I can't imagine that it is simply a financial choice. It could be, maybe just lack of planning, or maybe they just prefer cremation. But whatever the case, if you know it, please tell me. I'm still digging into it. I've made lots of phone calls to lots of people who very well may know. And if I can find any more to this story, I'll put it out. But for now, there's a link to the story that's already done in the show notes. Speaking of which, there were two stories about conservation cemeteries and green burials this week that I shared and wanted to draw your attention to. The first one was Heartwood Preserve, which is a 41-acre conservation cemetery in Florida. And they have just not opened, but redoubled their efforts for getting people to, select them and to do their pre-needs with them. They burial fees go toward the preservation, and there are lots of stories. There's one that I left out this week because it was too weird and I have to get more information, but it's getting more and more horrifyingly common for governments to say, probably nobody's coming back to this cemetery. Let's give it to developers and make something useful out of it. It's gross, but it happens, and it happens a lot. One of the benefits of these conservation cemeteries is it takes land that's already being conserved and it makes it a cemetery. So even if you can beat the cemetery charge as a developer, you won't be able to beat the conservation charge, and vice versa. So if nothing else, for land trusts and for other people who are interested in land preservation, I don't know if there's a better thing to do than to have a conservation cemetery, because I'm working on a story from, I think, Newport News, Virginia, where they're just like, there were 3 bodies, but we moved them. And, this woman who has been fighting it presented evidence that there were way more than 3 bodies there. And the town's like, but are there really? We are running out of houses to build. So it's an interesting, as the crunch for space continues and as the real estate prices continue to skyrocket, conservation cemeteries are the best way, I think, for environmental types to make sure that the land that's being conserved is genuinely conserved for literal perpetuity, not just perpetuity until the money runs out and the grass grows too long. The other story is about a company called Higher Ground Conservation Burial in Vermont. They had their grand opening recently, and they had some members from the Vermont Vermont Symphony, Orchestra, come and play the grand opening, and they're getting people excited about it. So, link to both of those in the show notes. The National Funeral Directors Association has launched a subscription-based social media hub to assist funeral homes in managing their digital presence. Powered by Cloud Campaign, the platform provides a library of pre-made posts covering topics such as grief support, and advanced planning. The press release goes on to give the benefits. I've got to tell you, I'm ambivalent about it. I have become permanently ambivalent about AI, because I wrote in the most recent Sunday column, subscribers have it, and actually non-subscribers will get a copy of it on Sunday because there's an announcement in there that I want everyone to see. But in my little diatribe about AI, it's a way, as a writer, let me tell you, it's a way of saying I don't really care about this. When you're using AI to just generative AI to do my story was about obituaries. Like, the one thing that you should really care about is sitting down with a family and talking to them about their loved one and just saying, hey, go fill on an online dating profile instead. It doesn't sit right with me. And I asked why, so I would love to know what the attraction is to outsourcing the best part of what you get to do to AI. And for social media, as it becomes more and more apparent, like, I've been able to see AI. To me, an AI story looks the way that the Polar Express looks to you. Like, oh, wow, it is uncanny. It is in the uncanny valley. It makes me uncomfortable because there's something wrong. And the main problem with AI is writing, specifically communication in general, is a mind-to-mind endeavor. I want you to know something. And if I can't, the machine doesn't want you to know anything. So it's hard for the machine to pretend. it's easier for a person to pretend. So take a look at the NFDA social media hub. It's not a terrible idea. I don't think. I just wonder if the world needs more canned, platitude-filled social media posts anyway. In my personal life, I'm actually working on an essay where I'm going to compare social media to smoking. I think that in another 5 years, maybe, being on your phone is going to be like smoking. Like, please do not be on your phone in this restaurant. It makes other people nauseated. That kind of thing. That's coming. There's no question to me that there's going to be first a class separation between people. The haves will stop using social media first. Their children will stop using it second, and then people who emulate rich people will start doing the same thing. So I'm skeptical about the future of social media, but I'm definitely skeptical about canned material. But I don't have to run a funeral home all by myself, and something is always better than nothing, and it is not an expensive proposition. So take a look at it. Let me know what you think. I would love to get your thoughts on AI and its use in obituaries and in funeral service copy in general, because I think it's a missed opportunity. I think it sends a signal that the communication isn't as important to you as it ought to be. But I'm a maniac. I'm a zealot. As I wrote, I'm a zealot when it comes to AI writing. So anyway, link to all of these things in the show notes. And that will do it for this time. The rest has been an On Deathcare production. It was written, edited, all those things by me, Tony Russo, having a blast doing it thanks to my paid subscribers. Please consider going to ondeathcare.com to subscribe. Got some big announcements coming up, as I said in the beginning. I'd hate for you to miss them. And if you're not subscribed to the podcast, you can do both at the same place and at the same time. But if you're just a podcast person, or if you're just a YouTube person, for example, and you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe. I hope to be doing some more stuff with YouTube in the near future as well. I know I had said some unkind things about social media. I did not mean them, but that doesn't mean that I'm not posting on social media too. It was like the restaurants. They didn't want to be the first restaurant to ban smoking, but they wanted all the other restaurants to ban smoking so that they didn't look like the bad guy. That's me and Instagram. So you can find me on Instagram on Deathcare. And if you follow me there, I'm chopping up these videos more often to put out there so you can catch them during the week and get a sense of what's going on. But that'll do it, and I will check in with you next time.